Tinkerbell Day.
You're excited, not as excited as
People love
he is.
Tinkerbell on camera. It's disgusting.
Have y'all seen this yet? Before we start, I want to kind of lay the groundwork with you of what it's like to investigate these sexual predators, what it's like to investigate these sextortionists, what it's like to investigate these child pornographers, because this guy's kind of a combination of all that. He is a predator and going after children. And then he makes this video and puts it on his own Facebook. So let's look at that, and then we'll talk about the case. Now you notice he's got the bat. And he's got a little nude girl there that he stood up.
Ways of making you talk.
And if the video will move for us, there we go. It's like, is it moving very slowly? It's only supposed to be 2.5 minutes.
Tinkerbell. How you doing? What you got up under there? Oh, snotty.
We're going to try this again. This gives you a snapshot into his
Not suck your
mindset.
finger.
You know what he thinks is fun and games and cute. Matt, is it going to work for us?
Oh, look at this little baby.
Where did you get that grade?
Where did we get it was on his Facebook account.
But I mean, other than to give you a bigger picture.
It gives you a bigger picture of his mentality, of the way he thinks and the way he acts. I mean, he's in a store with his wife, and he's got this baseball bat. It's a thrift shop, if you will. And you'll see him moving from female doll to female doll with this baseball bat.
What did you say?
And in one episode, he's lifting up the doll's skirt, and then he's smashing them in the head.
Making you talk.
What does this video tell you about him?
This came from that. The whole pack. But there's no price on it.
This is a 31-year-old man.
Shopping with his wife.
Shopping with his wife.
No. Not suck your finger.
It's a control game.
Oh, look at this little baby.
When you see this video, Sheriff, how does it
Football kid.
Do you know, as I look at that, I mean, he's just an idiot. You know, he's in there with a baseball bat, looking up doll skirts, beating them like he's beating baby seals. It is unbelievable. This is the guy that we're dealing with. This is the guy that's one step away.
Here, look at those. They're $4 with the speakers.
And you've pretty well seen the majority of it. I don't know if he gets back to misbehaving again. But when you look at this video, it gives you a little bit about his persona, about his personality. What 31-year-old guy takes a baseball bat, chastises dolls and beats them, looks up their dress and beats them? Now let's fast forward. So he goes online. He starts this episode as a 15-year-old boy on Kick. He talks about being an emo. And he hooks into our victim. Well, he immediately abandons that persona, creates another profile on Kick using the name of Laura. And from there, he starts to communicate, and he starts to threaten, and he starts to extort or sextort. He starts to give timelines. As he's pretending to be this 14-year-old girl, he is on a power trip over our victim. He says that, look, if you don't do what I say, I'm going to release this Facebook with your picture and your age, and as a result of, I'm going to say some very racially charged things. Then he starts saying how he wants pictures of her. And he, at this time, is, as he ramps up his threats, he gives her timelines. And she says she's at church when all this starts. Then, as he's starting to threaten her, the victim, who has already has her face and her age and her name there, he sends a full-length selfie. And he says, nope, by 10 p.m., if you don't do what I say, I'm going to release all this. So they're going to see your racially charged language. They're going to see all this other ugly stuff. I want to see pictures of you in your panties and your bra. He threatens to take the photos of the victims that's sent to him and ruin her. This will ruin the rest of your life. And you'll be called nasty names. And he goes into those nasty names. Now here he's a 31-year-old man. He's portraying himself now as a 14-year-old girl. And he's saying horrific things to this child to threaten her, to scare her, to encourage her, to ultimately send nude photographs of herself. So as this goes on, and he's giving her countdowns until 10 o'clock, and she's saying, I'm out shopping, and she's trying to create defenses. She eventually takes a photograph of a bra on the ground and sends to her, and that outrages him. And then he says that he attends the school, that he's a teacher, and then he says that he's going to say all these nasty things about her with a teacher. And then he talks about locking this 13-year-old child up in my classroom, where he's going to engage her in sex. And then he goes on through the conversation and he says, I'm just going to bring a gun to school tomorrow, and I'm going to murder you, and then I'm going to kill myself. Now he's putting all of this pressure on this 13-year-old child. The ultimate end game is to get pictures of her nude. Well, she finally takes pictures of herself in her bra and panties and sends to him. He, during the course of this conduct, takes pictures of himself sexually arousing himself, and he continues to put the pressure on her. That's the guy who's beating the dolls. So at the end of the day, this 13-year-old girl goes to her school resource deputy the next day at school and says, I had a horrible event last night, and we received this information. And when we saw what occurred, obviously our investigative team from ICAC, Christy Smith, was assigned to this case. We immediately started our background investigation into him. We know that this is a dangerous person. We know that he's one step away. If he hasn't physically molested children, he will. At the end of the day, we went to where he lived in Bartow County, Georgia, and worked with the authorities there. And Steve Reid was arrested for a multiple number of charges. once we had him in custody and we had his electronic devices, we also found him in possession of child pornography. Those cases are being worked by the Georgia authorities. During our investigation and interview, believe it or not, this is the talent that Christy has, he fully confessed. Talked about everything that he did. He even went further when we said, well, have you ever done this to anyone else? He said, yeah, probably 15 to 20 other girls under the age of 18. He extorted at least 5 or 6 of them, he said, into sending nude photographs of themselves for him. He used those babies, those children's nude photographs to sexually satisfy himself. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the person that has to go to prison for a very long time. This is the person whose children aren't safe around him. So the investigation goes on. The investigation now is to do all the forensics on all of his devices to see if we can find those 5 or 6 girls who finally he sextorted or extorted them into sending nude pictures of themselves. Then we've got to try to identify who those young ladies are, who those victims are, wherever they are in the United States. That's why, as we have said before, it's so important that we all get involved in these investigations, because this guy, who doesn't look so happy there, is the guy who is victimizing 13-year-old girls, 14-year-old girls all over the nation. He may be in Georgia today, but he's going to be in the Polk County Jail in Florida soon. And when we're finished with him, then Georgia is going to have him back. Or Georgia may exercise the authority to deal with him first and then send him to us. But where are the other 5 or 6 victims that he created? Where are the other 5 or 6 girls who were threatened with, I'll expose you publicly, I'll make you such a mean, ugly, racist, sexist girl that you'll not even be able to go to school? Where are those victims who finally gave in to this? And they feared so much that they provided their nude photographs to him to get him to leave them alone, to stop the conduct. You know, this is the picture that I really like of him. He's not such a mean, bad guy when he's in handcuffs and lockup. But this is the guy who portrays himself clearly as being the control freak, that you're going to do what he says or he's going to socially ruin you on the internet. But then I noticed one of his last posts that he put on the internet: any man who beats a child or woman is the lowest piece of scum of the earth. Like and share if you agree. Well, I think that any man who mentally abuses children is even lower than the scum of the earth. And that's what he is. But this guy is dangerous. This is the picture I really like with his jail number from Georgia. I think that's where he needs to be for a long time. But he's not the only one out here. We need to make sure that children know to go to their school resource deputy or their school resource officer. We need for children to know that if anyone ever tries to talk you into doing anything that's illicit, illegal, immoral, or they'll expose you, to immediately go to law enforcement, go to your school teacher, go to your parents, and ultimately come to us. He's not the only guy like that out here. But because of the great work and because she went to the school resource deputy, a trusted person in her life in the community, we were able to make a positive difference quickly. At the end of the day, in order to get his way, he threatened sexual battery. He threatened to murder her. He threatened to do whatever, to expose her on social media. Whatever he had to do in order to get those photographs.
Had she not done the right thing, had she not gone to the school resource officer, do you think this would have escalated?
I think he would have continued with the mental abuse. I think he would have continued with the mental stress. He had her on the countdown. You've got until 10 o'clock. You've got to do it now. If you don't, I'm going to expose you. I'm going to create this Facebook page. See, one of the problems is children will put their pictures and their names out there. So when they copy this, then these sextortionists can then create their own profile of that child and start the pressure. So this guy identifies the child on Kik. He gets her name, he gets her photograph. He starts as a chat between a 15-year-old and her. When he gets the data that he wants, he flips over to a new profile with Laura, who's 14, and this is supposedly Laura. By the end of the conversation, he's saying he's 30 years old. By the end of the conversation, he's saying he's a school teacher. By the end of the conversation, he's threatening sexual battery and murder to her and suicide to himself. And ladies and gentlemen, this conversation is not with adults where adults go, "You're crazy, get out of here." This is children. This is children that don't know. These people have charisma, they have personality, they have the ability to convince children that you've done something really bad, and if you don't go along with it, they're going to tell mama, they're going to expose you to the world, they're going to expose you to the people that you don't want to be embarrassed in front of, and that's the people at school. So you go along. You do things that you think rational kids shouldn't do at all. You'll take those nude photographs just to get that stress and pressure off of you, then they disappear with your nude photographs forever.
Does this highlight the importance of parents monitoring what their kids do on phones and knowing who they're talking to and asking questions?
Absolutely. The reality is exactly that. If children see anything like that at all from the very beginning, they need to immediately go to their parents. They need to immediately go to the counselors at school or their teachers. They need to immediately go to their school resource officers or deputies. That's why it's so important to understand these people mentally get in these kids' head. And they create this environment in this social community. This is a social community. They start with a relationship, and then they start with the pressure in this social community, and this child feels hooked. And if I don't do this, they've got my picture, they got my name, they're going to set up a profile, they're going to say I say all these bad things about people, or they're going to say these bad things about me, or they're going to superimpose my face on this picture and put it out there if I don't cooperate, if I don't give them what they want. And then they start the mental pressure in this social community, and they convince these children to do things which they should never have done. And at the end, if you want to see the guy's personality, when a 31-year-old man will go through a thrift shop and beat dolls with a baseball bat and look up their skirts, that man will do anything.
What words would you use to describe this guy?
You know, I don't think I have enough descriptive words for him other than to say that he's a child pornographer. He is an extortionist. He is a creepy, dangerous individual who our experience tells us that they progress. Now, this is not wild enough. They progress to the next stage and the next stage and the next stage. And we worry that they not only get to the point where they will sextort or extort these children, they'll start reacting by, well, now I want the child. And then I want the child, and well, gosh, I got to do something with the child. So I think he lived out his fantasy. This guy is a predator. He is a child predator. He is a nasty, stinky child predator that's dangerous for all of society. And as a result of hard work by our detectives, working with the Georgia authorities in Bartow County there, we've got him locked up, and we want him locked up for a long time. And by the way, his trouble's just beginning. These aren't all the criminal charges. This is just the first of the criminal charges. We're going to give him all the attention he deserves.
When do you expect him to be back in the Polk County Jail?
He's supposedly going to waive extradition. There is the logistics of the two criminal justice systems. They are going to have charges on him in Georgia, significant charges. That's absent us finding his other victims wherever they may be. So he's supposedly going to waive extradition. We may get him first. Georgia may file and then send him back up there, or Georgia may hold him and then extradite him later. We're too new in this to know in what form or fashion we'll end up with him, or when we'll end up with him. But I just imagine that when he comes to the jail, that if y'all would like to have a real life picture of him, hey, we'll probably let you know when we're going to take him out of the car at the jail.
And Sheriff Judd, talk about this app kit. I understand it's kind of like Snapchat. It's supposed to be anonymous, and you got the IP address, and it looks like they worked with you pretty quickly.
Interestingly enough, we started out with Kik a while back, and they were very frustrating to work with. But my detectives tell me that this Kik, which is in Canada, has been remarkable. They have honored our legal work, our subpoenas, the information that we needed from them, our search warrants, whatever criminal systems that we had to have in order to make a case. They are working with us and the Canadian government to make that happen. So we are pleased with the improved Kik attitude with cooperating with us.
Do you think any of his other victims are from Central Florida, or is it kind of too soon?
It's no way to know. And that's, I can remember in the very beginning when y'all would say, why are you going to Denver, Colorado to arrest somebody? Why are you going to Massachusetts? Well, it's because they're victimizing our children here. This internet has made this phenomena a worldwide problem, a national problem. Make no mistake, we will chase you to the ends of the earth if you sexually abuse, if you extort, if you intimidate, if you violate the law, if you attack our children online, and that's what he did. This predator attacked one of our children online. We will chase you just as far as you can run. In fact, I still have a guy in lockup in Australia fighting extradition here. But make no mistake about it, you're not going to attack our children without us bringing the full force of the state and federal laws down upon you.
What he does for a job? Anything kid really-
He was a salesman at a tire store, I believe. But this is, and you can go, there's pictures of him taking protein and working out at the gym and being a muscled up guy. He's got this one picture that y'all need to run side by side. You need to get the picture muscled up, from his gym, and run that one next to that one. I just really love that. How's that, big boy? Is that working good for you? And we don't give protein in the jail. There's no place to work out.
You don't even give underwear, do you?
Oh, no underwear. They want underwear, they can buy
Bad idea in
it.
this case.
But we love it. If we, this makes our day.
Can you bring his dolls with him?
No dolls, no thrift stores, bashing baby dolls. Good night. Makes me crazy.
When you were exercising the search warrant, he was in his room trying to erase the stuff, or?
Well, I don't know if he was trying to erase it or not, but at the end of the day, it didn't make any difference. We got it. And he cooperated with us and confessed. I like it when a predator cooperates and confesses. Makes it easier. But he did it. And he said he did it. Oh, yeah, I've got nude pictures of 5 or 6 other young girls Well, they're victims. Where are they? Someplace in the United States, someplace around the world, we don't know. But we're searching for them because we want to find those young ladies so that we can add those charges onto him as well.
Did he have any prior criminal history?
No, he didn't. No prior criminal history at all. He's just recently, his wife gave him the hidey-ho. So his wife cooperated with us. She was taking some notes. She got onto this and was taking some notes that she turned over to us. Thank you very much. We appreciate help from wherever we get it. But the message is clear. These people are out here and they're searching online for your children. And when they get the opportunity, they'll try this. Fortunately for us, this 13-year-old went to the school resource deputy. So when we look at those deputies at school, those police officers on the school campus, this is one of the marvelous things about our school resource program across the state and nation. We create trust and relationships with these kids. We're not there to police the kids. We're there to protect the kids. And this is one more example, because of this trust and relationship of our school resource deputy, she felt comfortable going to him and saying, hey, I had a really bad experience last night. And as a result, he's having a really bad experience now. Okay? I don't think he has kids. Okay? Thank you all very much. Have a good weekend. Stand by for the